Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. And today we are peeling back the curtain on fusion events. Okay, we're going to take a deep dive and look back through some of the past history in Raid, because I'm sure you have all seen, I got plenty of your comments for sure. Outrage, absolute outrage over a rare champion being 9,350 points from champion training event. So we really want to dive into that and ask and answer the question of how much worse is this than what we had before, and what do we want to see change as well. So let's do it. We're going to be diving in. This is going to be really interesting. We also, again, because I'm doing this video today, Dungeon Divers is now live. 2,850 points for a rare. How bad is that? What about Artifact Enhancement? It's just gone live as well. 4,000 points for a rare. How bad is that? How does that compare to older fusions? And yeah, as we can see in this Moranix fusion. So without any further ado, let's dive right in, shall we? My first example here, and this is something that will help you. I want to give a couple of pieces of advice as well. You know, I don't want to just, tell you the story and show you the facts here today. I do want to give advice too. That's something I do like to do on the channel, especially for like free-to-play, low-spend players. Actually, one of the most successful videos I did actually on this topic was for champion training and how to get like a bunch of points in champion training that you might be missing out on. And now the interesting thing, so I went back to look at that video to see if we had an example, and yes we did, and it's loaded up blurry for some reason. That's kind of annoying, so it might be difficult for you to see, but this was from Operdin Clanfather. This was January of this year, and I remember when I was making this video, it was because a lot of people were leaving comments saying that this was just so difficult to do as part of this fusion. And it's blurry, but you can see that the first set of fragments for Operdin were 3,000 points, and the second set were 6,500. Okay? And it was this 6,500 in particular that was prompting people to come and say, this is impossibly difficult. How the heck can I do this? 6,500, that was back in January. Here we are today. Okay, in October, this very start of October, now it's up to 9,350, right? That's almost 50% more points from where it was before. And where it was before was already overwhelmingly difficult for free-to-play players, for newer players. So something has clearly gone completely crazy wrong here, and that's just within the few months of, I've been a content creator for less than a year, and within less than a year, that is what I've seen, which is just absolutely nuts. Something you might be curious about. This was a blast in the past for me. The first ever fusion I did, there's Hell Hades from back in 2020. This was a video I would have watched. The first fusion I ever did was Pixneal. Okay, Pixneal was the first ever fusion I did on my account. I've been playing for maybe, 3 or 4 months at that point. And I remember this being exceptionally difficult as well, and it's so much easier than it is today too. But for example, one thing that was really nice at Pixneal I wanted to highlight, which is just in terms of the actual champions in the fusion itself, this was probably my all-time favorite layout, where you've got 4 different epics that are available for you to get, and you can see with the rares that each of these, it's using the same 3 normal rares, but then there were 4 different void rares, and Kurzad is actually really good. I can't remember his name, the Ogren guy, he's actually really good. Dagger's not bad, and Panthera is pretty terrible, but this was actually quite an interesting one, quite a fun one, where you kind of have to hunt for your specific void rare to fuse up your specific epic, but other than that, it was actually really easy to get the others. So you kind of could pick and choose which of the epics you wanted if you weren't going for the full fusion, and that was nice. And there were also, the epics were also available, and there were backups available for you to get, which is not the case today. You don't have backups available anymore. If, for example, let me grab this up for you. Like, this is our current fusion calendar, right? And as you can see from this one, like you have almost no backups. You can get one of the extra epics from Summon Rush, but that's it. Now, to get even more interesting, let's go way back here to a content creator that's no longer no longer doing raid content, but was a huge inspiration for me. I'm slightly blocking him. This is BGE, who is a huge inspiration, obviously, for the content I do now, like especially the free to play, low spend fusion guides. Again, this was an example of the Mother Cybele fusion. So this was again last year, like over a year ago, right? And again, we can see a similar layout. This time it's just a set of 4 rares, just the same sets. But you could collect these champions, and then you can fuse them up, and you could choose which of these epics to go for. But now the really interesting thing, if we jump ahead here, prepare to have your mind blown. Prepare to have your mind blown. Look at this, and let me break this down for you, because this was his breakdown of the events. First of all, we can see that we have 2 of the different epics. Tolf was available in Summon Rush. That's similar to what we have. But then Canelia was available as well from Champion Training. And let's actually look at Champion Training in particular. With this is our current Champion Training with the rare champion at 9,350 points. The minimum that you need to do this, back for Mother Cybele, I think these were his estimates, right? His estimates. But these were pretty close to what was the case back then. The rare champion was at 2,500 points. And he was saying it could, worst case scenario, be 3,500. And then the epic, you would get an entire epic champion for 9,000 points. Worst case scenario, 10,000. Right? That was how this is how much things have changed. That the rare, the rare is now in the place of the epic, and the epic is nowhere to be seen. An entire epic champion that you would get as a bonus instead of a rare. And of course, bearing in mind, if you went and you got this epic champion, it meant that you could skip some of these other events. You wouldn't need to collect these rares and level them up and fuse them up. You could skip that step if you wanted, grab a couple of the epics and make the fusion shorter and easier. Or you could go in and you could, you could keep these extra copies of epics for yourself. So that's absolutely crazy. If we look at the Dungeon Divers, right, in Dungeon Divers, he's looking at 2,000 typically, maybe up to 4,000 worst case scenario, but generally about 2,000, 2,300, 3,000. We jump to Dungeon Divers as it is in the game right now. It's actually fairly similar, 2,850. We're at the higher end. We are at the higher end, the lower end, it could be down here at this rare skill tome or somewhere between the rare skill tome rarity charm. So that has not increased as much. It's still rough, but it's not as bad, at least relative to that. That was quite interesting. Artifact Enhancement, you can see that there's 2 rares in here, and he was estimating they'd be about 2,000 points or 2,600 points. And again, he has silver estimates for how much silver you might need to get that. We jump to Artifact Enhancement. What is it now? It's 4,000 points. This is another one which is just absolutely skyrocketed. From going from 2,000, maybe 2,500 to up to 4,000. It's almost twice as many points. And in particular, I definitely give this is a huge warning. I think it's in this set of tabs. I got so many tabs open right now. Huge warning for anyone who is doing this fusion. I mentioned this in my fusion guide. We have 3 artifact enhancement events. I expect now that this to be very difficult, right? If the first one is 4,000 points, again, I have to reiterate my advice here, which was if you are going for this fusion, do the minimum points, get 4,000 points and stop. Just save everything. You're going to have to get through 3 of these, right? You need to be very smart, very careful about conserving your resources through this, is my advice here. This is, by the way, another question. When I do these fusion event guides, by the way, I will often predict, my expectations for how hard it is, but it's impossible to say as well. Like, who knows? Who knows what this Dungeon Divers event 2 is going to be, or Artifact Enhancement 2? They could, in theory, do anything. They could change the points if they see people aren't doing it. They could do anything, right? All I can do is give you predictions and my thoughts on what it looks like. That's all I can do. Now, the other big thing I want to draw attention to here as well, guys, are the summon events, because this is very, very, very stark. So, for example, this is how it used to be. You can see this was on the... Oh, man, is this American? I always get really confused with American stuff. I think this is May, I think. It makes no sense to do month, day, year. That's just month, day, month, year. Increase. Anyway, whatever. That's a whole other topic. That's a bigger problem than just a raid problem. But yeah, sorry, what was I saying? Yeah, Summon Rush. We look at Summon Rush. Check this out. His estimates here for the Summon Rush was for a rare champion. The rare would be 1,070 points. And then for the epic, which again is an optional epic, an extra that can let you skip events, or just an extra half. Now, Tolf was terrible. You would have just used him to skip other events. He would be 3,500. Right, so 2 sacreds and 7 sacreds. This is relatively similar to what it is today as well. This actually hasn't changed like crazy. However, it is worse. It is worse. I would say when I give advice nowadays that typically speaking, the idea of the lowest reward being 1,000 points, that's just not something we see anymore. Nowadays, it's typically 1,750 is the new normal. 1,750. Which is, again, that's a 70% increase on points for the lower thing. As I always say, approximately 3 sacreds. Sometimes it's 2,000 points, so twice what it used to be. So, 4 sacreds worth. I think the worst I've seen, was the worst like 7? I think the worst maybe with the Gaia's fusion, you needed something crazy, like either 5 or 7. I think it was 7. You needed to go the whole way up to even complete the fusion. That was the minimum, which was just batshit crazy, let's be honest. So yeah, Summon Rush is much worse. With Champion Chase, he was saying, it's probably about, it could be either 1,150, could go all the way up to 2,500. That's similar-ish to what it is today. Again, I would say that the lower thing is something that doesn't happen as much. I'd say this is relatively similar to what it used to be. I think it is, again, worse, though, today. You guys let me know. I'm actually not 100% up to snuff on Champion Chase because I generally do skip that one, to be fair. And you can see actually one thing that was interesting to me was that the dungeons really haven't changed that much, like a little bit. You can see that he's looking at something like about 1,800 going up to perhaps 2,000 in a dungeon. Now, this was interesting that Spider was as low as 1,300. Nowadays, we have super raids, right? So you've got super raids, so you can do basically 2 runs at once. And the requirements for the dungeons are now pretty much explicitly set at 2,250. So it's a little bit higher, but with super raids, it's easier to do. So I actually find that this is a big change, in my opinion, from someone that used to do these fusions, free to play back in the day and doing them now. It is significantly easier to do the dungeons now. It costs more energy, but it's faster to do. So that's definitely a trade-off, though. More points, for sure, but with super raids, it's faster. If you're free to play and you're limited on energy, that's potentially a pretty bad trade-off. But yeah, let me know what you think. So there you go, guys. I thought hopefully this was an interesting breakdown for you to actually go back and compare what did fusions look like in the past, and not just remembering vaguely or not entirely remembering vaguely, but actually going through and looking at these were the points back in the day, how things have changed. Definitely champion training is the most stark, with the rare champion being there 2,500 points. An entire epic, which would let you skip part of the fusion at 9,000, compared to today, where the rare on its own is sat there. I think this is crazy. If you want my opinion on and I've got one big piece of advice for you as well, so stay tuned for that if you're free to play a low spend, right? What needs to change here is pretty obvious, honestly, in my opinion. Like, they really need to completely reassess this. And I think going back to more reasonable requirements like this, taking a step backwards, is fine. I will say, I don't think you go all the way back. I think that it should be a little bit harder than this because, to be fair, compared to, the middle of 2021, you do get more... you get more stuff in game now, right? You do get more stuff with CVC, with Hydra rewards, with Doom Tower rewards in there. You get more rewards. You've got more stuff. Clan shop, right? There's more energy. There's more stuff in game than there used to be. So it should be a little bit higher, but nowhere near what it is today. Like, 2,500. If that was 3,000 for a rare today, I go, that's pretty reasonable. Okay, you know what? It's higher. But I'm okay with that being a little bit higher. That's fine. A small increase is fine, but that's it. And what I really want to see come back, I much prefer this old version where players that really prepared, like if you went into it and you did a big old grind in champion training and you got Canelia, you could keep her as a bonus epic, or you could skip 4 of these rares. You could go in and say, well, you know what? I don't have a good Spider team. I don't have a good Fire Knight team. I'm going to skip Ashwalker and Lumberer. And then I'm going to skip maybe one of these Dungeon Divers, and I'll skip one of the Artifact Enhancements or whatever, you know, and I can skip some of those events that I don't want to do or that are most difficult for me by going hard and getting this epic. Or I've got a few shards saved up. I'll grab Tolf and I can do the same thing, right? I think that is really cool where you can pick and choose. Nowadays, when I've given advice, like this has been very clear to me, again, from doing this a few times now. When I give advice on these, like for this one, it's basically like, okay, sure, if you've got a bunch of shards, yeah, you can get to Moe and you can skip some of these, sure, but that's very difficult, you know? The Summon Rush one is difficult. Other than that, you cannot miss any of these. Like there's no room for error. If you miss a single event, you're out of the fusion, which is just nuts. You know, there should be 20 of these available, or there should be more backup. There should be something else. It definitely needs to change like that. The final piece of advice I want to give then for you guys, for free-to-play players, earlier game players, if you skip a fusion, and I think, again, this one is pretty reasonable to skip. Obviously, this is predicting what the rest of the fusion is going to be like, but I will say that based off of all of these events so far, they are all on the high end. That's a pretty significant trend. Of course, these could all be really easy. They could be, but based on the trend so far, I do expect this to actually be pretty intensive in terms of the actual events. Like I said in my guide, it's not the worst setup of events, you know, total. Like, for example, Summon Rush and then 2x Ancient Shard, Champion Chase. It's the best possible setup of summoning events. They should be pretty easy, the summoning events to complete, most likely. But again, that's a prediction. Most likely they're going to be pretty easy. And it's usually the summoning events are the biggest barrier, because shards are the biggest barrier for newer players. So that's something, you know, that is worth noting. But I do expect this to be pretty difficult. But let's say you skip this fusion and you're saving up resources. What should you save for? Obviously, saving for the next fusion is good. But this is something I want to throw out there that doesn't get said enough, which is sort of contrary to the point, in a sense, of this reward being really high in champion training. It is. Obviously, the rare is way too high. There's no question there. However, of all the events for a free-to-play, of all the events for you to go hard in, for you to save resources for, and then to actually invest those resources in, you skip a fusion, whatever you're saving, what do you spend that on? Champion training basically is the event that you should be going hard on, right? This is basically it. One of the big reasons is the legendary skill tome. These are very limited. I'm sure you can look at your own champion collection and you can see, I know that even as a content creator, my champion collection, I've got plenty of legendaries I really want to book and I don't have the books for. They are super limited. You get some from Clan Boss, you'll get some from Doom Tower Hard. That's very difficult to do. And you don't get basically any outside of that. They're extremely rare. Champion training tournaments and events are one of the few places where fairly regularly you do have legendary tomes on offer. So it's one of the best ways you can invest your resources is these massive grinds for champion training to get those legendary skill tomes. Now, you'd really hope it's not this high. Usually it's a bit lower. Like, for example, in this example here, you could see this one was for 1100, right? So it was 2,000 points less, which is a big chunk of points less, but it's a really valuable thing to do to actually get those tomes, to make your account better, to push it further. You've probably got lots of legendaries need to be booked up. You always get more legendaries than you can book. So for a free-to-play player, this is a good type of event. Just, you know, even if you can't do this one, for the future to consider, save up resources so you can blitz champion training, as well as the fact that the benefits from doing champion training for free-to-play and newer players are extremely high, right? Leveling up, ranking up champions. What does this help you do? This is key to Faction Wars. It's key to Doom Tower Secret Rooms. It's going to be key to Hydra, Arena. Just making your account better. Leveling up and ranking champions is a really boring grind, but getting all these rank 60 champions, right? Getting these legendary skill tomes is a huge deal. So that is definitely something for you to consider. And I feel like that, you know, when I look at the outrage as well over this being this high, part of what that says to me as well is that people They don't really know how to min-max champion training. Like I said, watch my video on that. And they're not doing it, right? People never go hard in champion training, which is, again, something you want to be able to do if you want to min-max. Like, as a free-to-play player, it's one of the most valuable things. And like I said, content creators don't draw attention to this because as content creators, your end game, you know, the value in leveling up champions really isn't there anymore. On top of the fact that you've got like loads of chickens built up, you get chickens for content creator perks and stuff like that. So I can tell you now, from being on both ends of it, you can watch my videos from the start of the year as a new content creator where it's not part of the program and I was free to play at the start, right? Where, yeah, like that was a huge part of what I did, compared to now where champion training for me, I can do it, but it's really tedious and boring, and I hate it because it's just not relevant to my account anymore, right? Really. And being a content creator, it's just not relevant. So yeah, again, I wanted to get that advice out there and clear for you. But there you go, guys. Let me know what you think. Pretty crazy, I think. But yeah, that's what it is. I'm going to crack some soul stones right here at the end. Let's see what we get. Why not? For a little bonus. Let's do it. What do we get? We're probably going to get nothing. I like to do this now every week, you know? Just see what we get. Hey, we got 2 from hard. We get another 2, and we got 1. Is this the worst haul so far? No, we got 10. Actually, better than last week. Let's go. Summon 10 in a row. Let's see what we get. Dun, dun. We'll start with a legendary. Mother Cybele 1-star is actually really nice. I will take that. Skrank. I don't have Skrank. That's cool. Yalargina, I don't have her. Yalagurna, she's terrible. Allure, 1-star. Nice. And then I think I'll sell the rest. 4-star Abyssal. Not bad, actually. You know, if you're free to play, he's actually decent for Faction Wars. Now, I don't use him, but he's pretty bad. He's pretty cool. Not bad. I don't even own one, as you can see. But yeah, Mother Cybele and Allure, those are 2 nice wins. Gonna stick, obviously, Brimstone and Mother Cybele for Hydra, because I do use her in Hydra. It's gonna be real nice with her AoEs, applying it. And Allure... maybe just Cruelty, stack it up on bosses for like Fire Knight and stuff like that. Guys, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see y'all next time. Let me know what you think. Bye-bye.